collaborative coding live stream where we bring imaginative user interfaces to life. I'm your host, Stephen Shaw, but you may know me as @Shashaw.
And I'm David Khorshid, also known as David K. Piano.
And together we are animation amigos, coding compadres, Boolean buddies, JavaScript junkies, keyframe companions, and any others?
Animation amigos. But we said that,
yes.
So
yeah.
Okay.
We'll
that
keep
one twice. Yeah.
And today we'll be creating an animation from scratch live on the stream using HTML, CSS, and a small bit of JavaScript.
Yeah. So first of all, before we start, I posted a link to the Animation Network Slack over at the top. It's this weird damp lake 50659.herokuapp.com. And yeah, so if you want to join, this is where all the cool animation people hang out. So yeah.
Did you send it in the Slack? I mean in the Twitch chat?
I did. And you just did too. So
yeah, for some reason your messages aren't coming through still. Did you forget to do your activation, your email activation?
I thought I did. Maybe I didn't. But
well, that's okay. All right. Yeah. Audio levels okay for everyone? Let us know, and we'll be adjusting on the fly. Yeah, that message just came through, but the one with the link did not. So maybe there's a restriction on that, but sorry. Anyway, yeah, slack.animationatwork.com, and we'll love to see you there.
All right, so let's talk about what we're working on today, our numero uno challenge.
All right, let me go ahead and get the dribble page up here. All right, here we go. We've got the dribble live. You may not be able to see it, David, but everyone else.
I'm imagining it
okay.
in my head.
So yeah, this is a pretty interesting animation example called Gallery Page Transition by Ziana. I assume that's how you pronounce it. And it's a really great animation mock-up.
Yeah, there's a few elements going on here. The cool things I saw were, number one, the image transition, where it does the whole stripe thing. And there's a couple of cool techniques that we could talk about on how exactly we could accomplish that.
Yeah, that'll be fun to get into. Let me switch over to the GIF scrubber view, so we can kind of break this down slowly. So I'll go ahead and pause it here. We can scrub to it. So it starts out on a single image view, but let's get to the gallery view, and then we'll go back. So this would be kind of the gallery page view. We've got 4 images side by side. I assume you'd scroll through those, but not necessarily. And then when one of them is clicked with this fancy cursor here, you get a nice little overlay on the hover state. And then check that out. The bottom of the images comes up to line up with the white box before the tops of the boxes begins to head down. And as soon as that happens, the original image that was clicked begins to come in, but not just sliding in. It's got 5 distinct pieces of it that animate in, and then it animates out much in the same way back to the gallery page. What do you think? What do you think, David? Is this doable?
I think it's doable. The hardest part in my mind is going to be the whole clipping, where it sort of looks like strips of paper where the image, comes to completion. If you know what I mean.
Yeah.
It's hard to describe animation with words. Animation is worth like 10,000 words.
That's exactly why we're doing a live stream, so that we can talk through it visually as well.
Yeah. So you know how chefs on cooking shows, they sort of have all of their ingredients set out, in those nice little ramekins, basically in a way that no one would ever set up their kitchen, but they're just there.
And they also have the fully cooked turkey in the oven already?
In the oven, just in case.
Yeah.
Just in case.
Oh, well, hey,
so,
what's this?
So we actually have that today, just so that we could get past all of the boring stuff. A very, very rudimentary layout of what we're going to be creating today. And I've thoughtfully added images of my choosing.
Yes, I see that, and you are using Unsplash here, which is great.
Yep.
Just a very particular selection.
No, I just chose some random images, and that's what came up.
Oh, really? Huh.
Yeah, pretty much.
Excellent.
All right, so what I have here is we set up a really simple state machine, the same thing we did last time. Right now we're going between two states. The photos state, which is just all of these photos over here, and the single photo state. So you could click back and forth and see those work.
Yeah, and right now we're just transitioning into one image. We may have time to get into doing the actual image transitions, but we'll see. We'll try not to stream as long as we did last time, just for time's sake. But hey, we've got a Chris Coyer in the chat joining us. Welcome, Chris. Glad to have you here with us. Feel free to correct us at any point when we are not correct.
Which is pretty much all the time, but that's what this stream is for. It's a learning experience for us as well as for everyone watching.
Exactly.
All right.
Here, let me go over the state machine really quick with the limited knowledge that I have of state machines, so that you can correct me and it'll hopefully explain it for the audience. So the state machine, we've got an object here containing all the originals, all the states plus the initial state, and each state contains an action in the on object, which when that action is taken, it will transition to a different state. So the current state, machine.initial, and then the the send is what actually causes the state to change there. I butchered that horribly, I'm sure, but yes.
That totally makes sense.
We got a question in the chat asking about the JavaScript version. We're not using any JavaScript preprocessors, though we might switch it over to Babel before just releasing it out. Typically, most of the ES6 functions are available in Chrome, which is what we're using, so it won't be a problem. And then we just toggle over to Babel for a little more browser compatibility there. Other than that, we don't have any external scripts or styles at this moment, though we might be adding in something in a little bit.
So I posted in the CodePen chat, or if you click open chat, a visualization of what this very, very simple state machine looks like, just so that you all are aware.
And I'll include this link in the chat here as well, if you want to follow along at home. There we go. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow, that's beautiful.
Yep. So basically, we start in the photos state where we're seeing all the photos, and when we click, we go to photo, and then when we click back, we go back to photos. So it's this really, really simple thing. And I wanted to show this because this is all that JavaScript is doing.
Yeah. A state machine is literally just a simple machine handling the state that transitions us from one to another. And cool.
All right.
And Sorry, let me kill the music here. That's still going. Excellent. Uh, okay, so where would you like to get started?
Well, let's see. Taking a look at the animation,
I'll go
we
back.
see that the first thing that really happens is this. Hmm.
Uh,
I mean, this. It's a very simple hover effect,
yeah,
really.
yeah, that shouldn't be.
But let's save that for last. Save the easiest for last.
Sounds good. Okay. Well, how do you want to approach these transitioning the gallery transition out, where it clips up from the bottom and then clips out from the top?
It's a good question. What if what if we use something that I'd like to call the sliding layers technique? So basically, each of these images we're going to place in its own div, or actually we could just have it be a pseudo element. And so we would transition that at the same time we're transitioning out. This is really hard to explain with words.
So basically, duplicating uh, or having more than one element, where one element is moving while the other is moving in the opposite direction, so that you get the
Yeah,
illusion of no movement, but with the benefit of clipping if you're using overflow hidden or something like that. Correct?
yeah. So let's try that. And the way I like to experiment with just like doing that is, maybe doing it on hover or something like that, just for now, just to see how it feels, how it
Sure.
looks.
Let me see here. Okay. Let
And
me.
so I set up a bit of CSS too.
All right, so looking at the HTML here real quick, UI layer photos is what's going to be visible when we're looking at data state photos. We've got
Mhm.
the beautiful heading here. How do you pronounce that?
What UI layer dash
No,
photos?
no. Shah David
Oh
Keyframs.
yeah,
Is
so
that a
the
long K?
uh I don't know. I just picked one of those crazy letters just because that's what appeared in the original animation, and I want it to fit. I want it to feel authentic. You
Yes,
know.
yes, that's beautiful. And then a group of photos called UI photos and individual UI photo elements that make up all of these. Okay. And so you do want to use sliding layers here.
We could do that, or we could use clip path. See, my thinking is we're going to be using clip path anyway, so what's going to be easier?
Do you think we will be using clip path? I think we could do it with sliding layers
Yeah, at least the
in
first part of
total.
the animation. So let's looking back at the animation here.
We've got a question from Chris in the chat. Animating clip path too dangerous performance wise? Do you
That's
want
a
to
really
speak to
good
that?
question. Yeah. So, in my experience, the answer is it depends. And the reason it depends is because this would be the things you want to avoid with in order to have performant animations. Of course, you only want to animate transform and opacity. Now, the most expensive type of animation after that is anything to do with triggering layouts. And so that's going to be your height, width, left, right, and a whole number of other things, even line height, font size. All of those are going to trigger layouts. Now, one of them that's less expensive, but still sort of expensive, is triggering paint. And so that's what Clip Path does. And it's sort of unfortunate because you go to native platforms like iOS and Android, and Clip Path is handled on the compositor as well, to the best of my knowledge. Unfortunately, the web doesn't have that yet. A lot of people have been asking for it. It's not there yet. However, it's not that bad. The reason that it could be sort of a performance drag is if you're doing any other intensive stuff on the UI at the same time. Over here, I think we're going to be safe. Number one, because uh, Chrome in particular is pretty good about doing clip path animations. And number two, um, we could do contain paint, and that's a right now it's a Chrome only property. It's called CSS containment. And by doing that, we get a marginal amount of performance savings, but it's really nothing too significant.
Yeah, and that contained paint just really tells the browser not to worry about how this layer is going to affect other layers. It tries to contain everything in that particular element.
Mhm. So I posted in the chat a complex clip path animation that I did a few years back, and I've never noticed any performance problems with this.
I'll open up
Yeah.
and go ahead and talk a little bit about the browser support of ClipPath.
Okay, yeah, so that's a good point. ClipPath is supported, of course, in all modern browsers. However, let me just look real quick so that I actually know what I'm talking about. All right, so according to MDN, I'm going to guess that it's not supported in IE. One thing to keep in mind is that when you're doing these animations and you're considering browser support, another thing you have to consider is it worth trying to make this animation for certain browsers? Or can you treat it as a progressive enhancement? In this case, we could definitely treat it as a progressive enhancement. It's not vital to how we show the content or anything like that. And people don't know what they're missing, basically. So if you're on Internet Explorer and you're not seeing a fancy clip animation, your user's not going to be sitting there thinking, boy, I wish that there were a clip path animation on this image.
Yeah.
They're never going to think that. They're not going to know.
If they're on Edge or Internet Explorer, God forbid, they know what they've signed up for, and they don't expect transitions or animations on anything. And
Right.
and again, with progressive enhancement, the goal there is number one to not have anything broken on older browsers, but to provide a better experience for browsers that are capable of providing that.
Yeah, so for the first images, we are going to be using transform in order to make this work, and you're going to see a lot wider browser support with that. However, with the second image animation, that's going to be a little bit harder, if not impossible. So we're going to be using ClipPath for that, just because it's a lot fancier.
Okay. All right. So under, you want to do these as hover states first,
Yeah,
just for
probably a
testing.
good idea.
UI photo. Okay.
All right, so since we're doing the sliding layers technique, I'm going to be moving all of these background images into a UI image tag.
Or you could just use background inherit and keep the background image on both.
That's smart. Let's do that.
That'll save you a few copy paste lines.
Yeah,
UI
that's true. I was
image,
sort of dreading
background,
doing that.
inherit.
Ah, okay, I see what you're saying. But here, let's save even more and do it on the pseudo elements.
Well, let me stop you there. I have had performance issues with pseudo elements and some of these techniques in the code we might show later.
Okay.
If you relegate it to an actual element, it really helps with the compositing, I assume. The browser just seems to handle it a little bit smoother. And Chris Goyer is saying they are background images, so I suppose we could be just animating height, but that seems like it will almost definitely be janky. Yeah, in terms of that touching layout a bit more, the clip path shouldn't actually change layout as far as I remember.
All right, cool. So let's see if this background inherit thing works. So our UI image is going to need to be pretty much full width, full height, right?
Yes. And while you're setting position absolute, I'll set position relative on.
It's already there.
Oh, it is.
Remember my crazy let's position
Oh.
relative everything.
Oh, yes. For those that didn't see last week's episode, David has some very interesting CSS that he always uses, where he sets position relative on everything. And it's
Funny enough, I blame Chris Coyer for that just because he wrote a blog post a long time ago explaining these interesting things you could do with the I guess the everything selector, the star selector, and I rolled with it. I did the position relative thing, and I'm like, wow, CSS is 10 times as easy now that I've done this, and I've never given it up despite people yelling at me.
and it almost certainly won't break everything or kill performance.
No, not at all.
It's like a 85% guarantee.
Yeah.
Okay, so I went ahead and added just a transform translate on it, so that we could see that there are, kind of two copies of the image there. You can kind of see the duplicate, head of the goat there. So, all right. For the hover state, are you wanting to do, or for the eventual transition, are you wanting to handle this with actual animation?
Yeah, that's what we're gonna have to do.
Yeah.
So let's go ahead and do that.
Okay. You do want to keep those on there. On the UI photo element, you removed the background cover and background position. We do want those on there, and those are inherited into UI image with background inherit.
So yeah, I'm just trying to think about the duplicated photo thing. That's going to be a problem.
No, because we'll be clipping out of it. That shouldn't be.
I mean, I'm not going to complain about all the goats, but
let's try getting into it, and we'll see. Another thing you can always do is add visibility hidden to the parent, and you should see those goats go away. And then add visibility visible to the child, and it's suddenly visible.
hey, look at that. Awesome.
Minus any borders. So that's one way you can always hide the parent, or you can kind of limit what pointer events are happening. If you have like a full screen, position absolute, top 0, bottom 0, all that, you can use visibility hidden on that element, and then visibility visible on the child, so that only the child actually has click events and hover triggers and all that.
Gotcha.
Quite handy. Okay.
All right. So as far as the animation, that disappeared. Where'd it go?
You had an animation?
Not yet.
Oh, just looking at the GIF.
Yeah. Oh, because on mine I clicked the body accidentally. You know what? Let me disable that for now. Let's let's stay in the first state, because this is the first thing we're gonna focus on.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So here's a general idea. You take one of these goat photos, right, and you translate them which direction?
The actual image will be translating down, while the container translates up. Looking at the GIF.
It seems like it's the other way around. Container goes down, image goes up.
Well, let's see. Okay, we currently don't have the overlap in UI photos. I'm gonna set overflow hidden on that right now, because I've got scroll bars visible.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Margin bottom, -2em. Let's see, yeah. And so now we have a little bit of an overlap on that. And Chris Coyer is talking about a great trick. I believe he's referring to the visibility, and he says can't do that with display or opacity, I don't think. No, those can't be overridden by children. If you have display none set on a parent, the children will not be visible. And same with opacity. You can't make something more opaque than its parent.
Yeah. All right, so I see what you're saying now, where the container is going to move up and the photo is going to
Yes,
move down initially for, just to get rid of that bottom gap.
correct.
And then it's going to move the other way.
Yes.
Okay, let's try that.
All right. So let's see. Down here towards the bottom, I have UI photos, UI photo. Should we add that on hover, or should we just do it regular?
No, let's just do it.
Okay. Animation. Container move. 1 second. Linear. And when I'm using a preprocessor, I usually like to put the keyframes with the element where the keyframes are going to be used. But that does not work with raw CSS, so beware.
Right.
Let's see. So 0%, transform, translate Y.
Yeah, so for everyone not aware, we're using a variant or a preprocessor called SAS. It's actually SCSS, and it makes writing CSS a little bit easier. I've been using it for many years. Shaw has been using it for many minutes, and yeah, it looks a lot like normal CSS. And that's pretty much the point.
Okay.
All right, cool.
So yeah, you can see the initial move happening there. Let's copy this into UI image. Well, let's see.
Okay.
I'll copy these keyframes. And
So now the idea is you're going to move the container pretty much like equal and opposite force. Right?
Yes, look at that. That's beautiful.
Oh, wow. So yeah, you could sort of see like the bombs clipping out. I'm going to change this to infinite just so that everyone could see. Oh.
Yeah, I gotta add it
Decided to
down
change
here.
both.
There we go.
Yeah.
All right. So yeah, you can see that the image doesn't appear to be moving, though it actually is moving. It's just moving at the same pace as the container it's within is moving.
Right.
Hopefully that feels pretty clear to everyone.
Mm-hmm. So now I'm guessing we're going to have to, in these same keyframes, make it move the other way for both of them.
Correct. Interesting.
I know what you're thinking.
Yeah.
They're moving at different rates or whatever. Let's just do a staggered effect for that. So when the animations happen, let's give each one of them a random delay. And that's going to be the simplest way to do that effect.
Well, I think we may have a problem here with just using sliding layers, because once we begin moving the image back down, let's see. Ah, gosh, gotta slow this down a bit because that is killing me.
Oh, we don't want for 22 seconds.
No.
Okay, so what's happening?
Sorry. There we go. Yeah, so the issue there. Oh, well, I think we can just keep the container up. Sorry. Whoa. Hey.
Woo.
Goats, come back here. All right. Yeah, there we go. There
okay, perfect.
Chris Coyer's asking, nesting keyframes, I imagine they just bubble out to root. That's correct. They should just go out.
Yeah. And of course, this is something that people should be aware of as well. If they have two keyframes with the same name, they're going to conflict. The last one defined is going to override the first one. So just keep that in mind when you're nesting keyframes. in Sass or less or whatever you use. Okay, so that looks pretty good. Now let's use nth child to sort of stagger these. So make it so that every even one gets a different delay. What do you think?
I'm good with that. Or we could also use some CSS variables.
Okay, yeah. So let's go in the HTML then. Taking a look at the photo real quick.
You can also set the variables with your loop within the Sass if you wanted to.
Yeah. So the reason I thought even and odd was because the even ones seem to go at the same rate as each other, and the odd ones seem to go at the same rate as each other too.
Let's see.
So actually, yeah, let me just do that real quick.
Oh yeah, we could totally just do nth child selectors for that.
Animation delay, 1 second. Type tonight.
They're not exactly even, but they're pretty close.
Okay, so looks funky, but it works.
Yeah, I think the animation delay is a bit too much. Let's tone it down just slightly.
Go for it.
Yeah, something like that. And wow, look at that smooth linear movement. Should we Bezier it up? Bezier?
Yeah. Yeah, but let's actually put this in a Sass variable so we could reuse that everywhere.
Yeah.
So I'm doing that over at the top using Kibuk, Cubic, Bezier, and then it's just going to be like smooth, right? 0.50, 0.51.
Oh, you've already got one.
Yeah. And so we could replace these linears with that easing. And so we should see. How's that feel?
That feels much better. I think our delay is still a little bit too much. Let me tone that down. And yeah.
Nice.
Now the problem with the easing there is the clipping and the movement is happening slightly off. Is that just me?
No, not to me. It seems very flat.
Okay, I might just be janking a little bit because of how much I have running.
Yeah, me too. That's a little bit interesting.
Yeah. What if? Here, let me change the easing just a little bit. See how that.
So Notorious B1T asks, can't you just define easing as a CSS variable? Yes, you can. I like reserving CSS variables for things that are dynamic or could be defined elsewhere, such as in JavaScript or from some other source. In this case, we know that easing is never going to change, so we're just going to keep it as is.
One thing we could do here is for the very first clip, we can try a linear. Does that feel a little bit better?
Yeah.
I don't know why it.
Also, I changed it to Times New Roman just because.
Okay, cool. That's feeling pretty good. So how are we going to trigger this animation on state change, David?
So we could trigger this animation. If you think about it, like we have two states, right? We have the photos, which is all these photos, and we have the photo state. And so what I'm thinking is that on the photo state, so this is defined on the data state equals photo thing, that's when we trigger the animation, and then the main photo comes in on a delay. So it waits for this animation to finish, and then it starts its fancy animation. What do you think?
That sounds good to me.
All right, so let me change the state up top, and let's get to the next one.
Where did our
Let me
image
just.
go?
Oh,
Oh,
I have to add a UI image.
yeah.
And here
Which
we
which
go.
we might need to make this one a different class anyway. But we can cross that bridge later.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, so we have our goat.
Beautiful. Hi, goat.
Mm-hmm.
And sorry, so what's the next step regarding the state machine here?
Well, let's not worry about the state machine right now. I have it fixed so that it's on the next state.
Oh, okay.
And so basically we want to work on that slicey animation. Now,
Oh, yeah.
I'm wondering how we're going to do this. Do you have any ideas?
So I've actually had a little bit of experience with this. I've been working on a library to assist with this that uses just small bit of JavaScript mainly to process the image up front. And by process the image, I just mean making a lot of extra elements in the DOM so that you can get this kind of slice effect. The same way that we did the background inherit on the child. That's what's going to be happening here. Um, okay. So this library, tentatively called SplittingImage, will take your image and make multiple elements as children of it so that you can animate each of those elements, move them around, do whatever you want with them. Anything from just a standard column or row layout to even a grid. And it does all this with CSS variables and, like 1 to 2 kilobytes of JavaScript. Really nothing, nothing,
Yeah, no.
nothing crazy. So
Really cool stuff.
yeah, I thought so.
Now, the interesting thing I saw is that these sort of slice from the middle out or from the out towards the middle. So it's not a linear thing. Do you
Right.
think your library could handle that?
We'll need to get a little creative with our CSS selecting and variable use. So let me go ahead and start getting SplittingImage over into our project here.
Or if not, we could just do our own effect.
Exactly.
Never has to match exactly.
All right, got SplittingImage, and let's include the SplittingImage CSS as well. And look at that. This is all the CSS that SplittingImage needs. It's super simple overall. Basically, it's going to create all of these split cells that are going to get all of these CSS variables, and then that'll allow us to change the animation for each of them. So let me go back in here, and I always prefer to copy and paste versus typing. So let's go here.
So it's making many little divs.
Yeah, I'll show you once I get that on here. So let's see. This is going to be columns, and it's 5 columns. Is that correct? Yes.
Yeah,
5 columns. Okay. So we'll just add a data calls equals 5. And then when we inspect here, we'll be able to see. Now this, where's my inspection? Ah, there we go. Okay. Wow, cool. Okay, try and get that visible a little bit. All right, so now we've got a bunch of div soup, or span soup, if you will. So UI photo now has the splitting image class applied. The background image still applies. And it also got some CSS variables that give it the row total and the column total and the total number of cells overall. And then a bunch of individual elements are added down here. Split cell, and then inside of each split cell is a split cell inner. And this is what I was telling you about with the pseudo elements. I originally had it doing pseudo elements, but the performance was very, very terrible. So by creating another element in the DOM, it began working super smoothly. All right, so split cell, each one has a data row and a data call attribute just for easier selecting. For actually using those values, you'll want to use the actual CSS vars that are included. Oh, hey, what did you change on me, David?
Nothing.
Breaking my inspection.
Sorry about that.
No.
Maybe we should have it stop automatically running. Or maybe I just shouldn't touch anything.
Well, for now, I think we're okay. So let's do just a simple staggering right now so we can see what's happening. I'm down at the very bottom. Going to UI photo dot split cell. Let's do animation fall in over 2 seconds, linear, keyframes. And if you have questions at any point, please stop us in the chat, and we'll try to answer those. Translate Y.
So actually, we're completely avoiding the whole clip path performance thing here.
In theory.
Yeah. We're making a whole lot more div elements to do so, but or spans in this case.
Oh, sorry, I've got UI photo there twice. Okay, so you can see how that is animating in smoothly. There's no staggering or anything like that. So what we're going to want to do is set an animation delay, calc 0.3 seconds times var call index.
And that's provided by SplittingImage itself, right?
Correct. So now we've
Whoa.
got those beautiful little pieces. Sorry, what's our state target here? UI layer dot dash photo. Just so this doesn't break anything on the others. And what we can do, since we have that issue with the duplicate background image, if we add visibility hidden, and then visibility visible, and an extra bracket down here.
So now, before you get too far on this, I noticed in the original image that it's basically slices, but they're not sliding. It's more like it's appearing.
Correct. So we're going to have to use our sliding layers technique to do that as well. Oh, I know what it is. UI image. Go ahead and hide that. Sorry, I don't know where that image is coming from. Let me.
I feel bad for how sliced up this goat keeps getting. Must be painful.
Yeah, he's all right. Okay, I am just incapable of typing correctly, so that's the issue there. There we go. And
All right.
then we want
Yeah.
to do animation fill mode both for that. Ta-da. Okay, how's that looking?
Good. Can I switch over to easing?
You may. Well, yeah, I guess that's fine. Because we'll be playing with the negative transform. So split cell inner, just using a little bit of BIM style here. Let's go animation inherit so that it's going to get that animation delay, and then we'll just overwrite the animation name to fall up.
Ah, that's a clever trick. So basically, you could copy and paste the animation without having the actual animation. So, all right. So one part's going up, while I guess the other part's going to go down,
Yes. Okay.
and now it's moving to the left.
Yeah. So that's a limitation of splitting image because of the way that it has to align all of these layers with that CSS. You can see split cell inner. It has a transform so that it gets each column in the right spot. So if we copy
what if
that
had left instead?
What's that?
What if it were left instead, like in the actual plugin, or does that not work?
You're catching me off guard a little bit. I don't remember. I believe it had to do with relative values and how all that works. Because this is a child element that's actually sized to the size of the grandparent. I believe that was the issue.
Gotcha. Okay.
But we can try it here. -1 pixel.
I mean, arguably, even though it's a little glitchy, I think the effect's pretty cool.
Yeah.
It could be one of those feature, not a bug things.
Indeed. Yeah, if we're slicing, why not slice it all the way? So yeah, let me see what those. Yeah, I really don't specifically remember why that is the case, but all we have to do here is copy and paste. And then copy and paste. Wow, look at that.
Wow. It's pretty good.
Yeah, I think so. So should we try to tackle animating with the center coming in first?
I mean, if you want to. Honestly, I like this effect, and it's sort of like a rebound of this dribble, except with code.
Right.
Where it's like, you know what? Instead of the center, let's do it from left to right. And we could leave the center as an exercise to the reader, or watcher in this case, because all it takes is a little bit of math.
Right. So I will explain just a little bit. That's one of the reasons that splitting image includes a column total variable, so that you can easily do these kinds of calculations with just your CSS vars. And I've worked out the math in other instances of coming from the center and the distance outward. And it's a pain because CSS variables really do not have many math functions other than just addition, subtraction, and multiplication and division. Hello, Commando in the chat.
I'm hoping that one day, CSS does get all those fancy functions. I know that, CSS colors, level 4, but we really need more powerful math functions.
Yeah, having sign available in CSS variables would be huge.
Listen, if they even had like an absolute value function, which I'm sure is dead easy to make, that would be the bomb. there would be so many things you could do with just the, you know, absolutes, min, max, Boolean values too. Did you know that CSS does not have any Boolean values?
Yeah, that is quite unfortunate. Though with
Yeah.
the current way that that CSS variables animate, they're practically Boolean on or off.
Yeah, that's true. All right, so do you want to get into triggering the actual animations?
Uh, yeah, lead
Are we at
us.
that stage?
Yeah, I think we're at that spot.
All right, cool. So let's see, this UI layer. Oops, I just deleted the entire CSS. Brought it back though. All right, so what I did with this UI layer photo was I added a white background, but if I remove that, you're gonna see something, or you might see something. Now we're in the other state, so might not see it. UI layer. Oh, because I have display none. Okay. So if I remove that, then we see both both of the states at the same time.
Oh,
However, I think we're missing some images. How'd that happen?
it. Yeah.
Oh no, they're
There.
still there. Ah, but is it that the animation completed already, or
Probably the animation actually needs to trigger when the state changes there. So this code on line 127 needs a bit of work there.
all right, actually, okay, so now if I go to the photo state over here, which I just did, you're going to see that both the gallery photos and the main photo are both visible at the same time. And so what we're going to do is we're going to trigger an animation on this data state equals photo so that our photo gallery at the bottom slides down and our photo at the same time, or not at the same time, after a delay, does its animation. And so that's going to be, I don't know if you see it here in the CSS line 25.
Line 25.
Or sorry, not line 25, line 23.
Don't lie to me. Okay, line 23.
Yeah, so this is where we need to trigger the animations. And so let me try to think of the best way to do that. So we have
We can
here.
just copy our animation
Yeah,
trigger.
yeah,
up
let's
there.
do it.
So I'll grab the UI photos one.
And I'll grab my axe.
Okay.
Actually, you got that one.
Yes. Is that correct? Oh, I need to remove the specificity there. No. Okay. It does not seem to be triggering.
Well, what if you here, let's see, UI photos, UI photo, UI photos, UI photo, UI image. And then we have here, let's see. UI photos, UI photo, UI photos, UI photo, UI image. Ah, so what about this UI layer photo, UI photo? Well, what's not displaying for you?
So I think the issue is here. Yeah, that's it. Okay. So the data state was on photos when really the data state should be on photo.
Gotcha.
For the CSS state.
All right, so I just copied the whole big chunk of splitting stuff at the bottom.
Yes.
And I'm hoping that that's correct. Did I do it right?
Let's see.
Okay, yeah. Sweet. I was worried that I was missing a bracket or something. All right, so at the top, I added a Sass variable, the duration, and that's 2 seconds. So I added that so that for our split cell things, um, we could add that to the animation delay. And so I'll go ahead and do that right here.
And you have to use this ugly combination of hashes, curly braces, and cache signs in
Oh
order
yeah,
to get
so
the Sass variable in there.
it's so terrible. But that's fine.
Let's see.
All right, so where's our animations?
Yeah,
Was it working before? Let's see.
oh, I think we need both.
Yeah, so I don't see the main image. Where'd that one go?
Okay. Uh, it might be hidden by the background. Is that?
No, because it's supposed to be in front.
Okay.
Here, what if I all right, so well, what if we take this out again? And oh, wait a minute. UI layer photo. I don't know why this is display none.
Oh, that was the hangover from the initial
Ah,
state toggle. There
there
we
we
go.
go.
Hey, how about
Okay,
that?
cool. So now we're gonna let me activate the machine again so that you could click the body and then see it go back and forth.
Okay. David is turning on the machine.
Yep. And so are you able to, if you click the body, you're going to see the animation replay.
Yes.
Okay, cool. So
it,
this is pretty much exactly what we want. Almost. So not exactly what we want, but pretty close.
for the transition to a single image, we still have to do transitioning back to the main gallery, which shouldn't be a problem
Right.
here.
Let's see how that looks real quick. Okay, so you're gonna have to do splitting the other way.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Oh, that's gonna be fun.
Well, so all we need to do is let's just copy this entire little bit here.
Yeah, and so that's gonna be for the photos data state.
Right. Data
Cool.
state photos. And then
Things just need to go in the opposite direction.
right. In theory, we can just go reverse with the animations for UI image.
Right. And for these ones too, we're going to want to delay it now. I'm going to add that duration there again. Or, oh, we're still in the photo state. So let me go to the photo state just so that, okay. Yeah, so right now everything's animating in at the same time, which is fine. We could fix that. We have the technology.
Out.
But we do need to tweak a few things.
Yes.
But it shouldn't be that hard. Just opposite direction.
Right. 2 and 2. There we go. So yeah, animation reverse does not seem to be the right choice there.
Right. So instead of that, let's change the actual animation and make a keyframes container move reverse. I think that's like probably the safer
Yeah.
the safer option right now.
All right. So at 0%, we'll have that. 100% like that. 75%.
Ah, clever. Well,
In theory.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. In theory, that works. Here, 75% and 100.
Yeah, the keyframes don't actually have to be in order in your source. It's just
Right.
nice for your brain to do that.
Mm-hmm.
But since we are coding live, don't always make things nice and neat.
Yeah, cool. So I guess the only thing we have to do is add that animation delay over here, and so we could use calc to do that.
Yes.
Actually, we actually don't.
Yeah. Don't.
Yeah, we do. Why not? I was like, we could probably do some SAS math, but that's just gonna get confusing. Okay, so add there. Ah, smart. That inherits trick is actually really, really cool.
Yeah, and we could do the same thing down here, so we don't have to do all that. But
Right. That's the one thing I always forget to do in my pens is go back and refactor them.
yeah,
And so people would message me like, "Hey, I don't understand any of your code at all." And I would tell them that makes two of us. It just works.
let's see. I think we've got some issues happening here. Oh, animation move reverse. That's what.
Uh-huh. The delay's a little funky.
Yeah.
Let's see. Animation duration. 2 seconds plus duration. Hmm. Two. Hmm. You know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna open up the DevTools right now.
Gasp.
And I'm actually going to inspect these using that.
Yeah. The dev tools are your friend. When something is broken, they will explain it to you.
All right. So, inspecting things with the dev tool. In fact, if you open the dev tools, it actually looks pretty nice, like this nice little waterfall-y type thing. And we could probably see what's going wrong. So, let's see.
That's under more tools animations if you don't know where that little guy is.
Right. You could also do Command Shift P and open the command palette. It's a trick that I discovered way, way too late. And it's a really awesome trick. All right. So it seems like the animation delay is not. Well, actually, no. All right. The yeah, the animation delay is not getting applied to the UI image. So we probably forgot to do that.
Oh, I know what it is. Well, I think I know what it is. Yeah, so we do need to do animation inherit down here.
Oh, okay. Yeah. That works too.
Animation name. Like that. Does not seem to be getting the proper nth child delay, so let's see about
And that, yeah, that could be because of, yeah. Nope.
Nope.
Didn't work. All right, so nth child to n. So, interesting. I'm wondering why that's not working. You know what? It might be that it's that I did something bad with. Oh, okay. You know what it is? In SAS, when you put anything inside of calc, you have to interpolate it. There we go. Completely forgot to do that. And I'm not sure what SAS's thinking is here, but I'm guessing they think that if you put $ whatever, it could mean something inside of calc. I wish calc was a little bit smarter though.
Yeah. I'm going to speed up our duration just a hair here. And I think we need a variable for offset of like 0.2 seconds, I think is what we have right now, but I'm going to lower that to 0.1. Okay, what is it? Hash, curly braces, offset. There.
What were you doing?
Setting the offset in calc.
Okay. So while you're doing that, to do basically the last part, I'm going to add flipping. So we can see how that's going to work. Yeah, so I think if we click the body, we have exactly what we want as far as the photos go. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, the transitions turn out quite nice.
Yeah, a few things we could tweak, which I think you're tweaking right now, is so that the images don't overlap.
Right.
Yeah, cool.
And now what are you going to do with flipping?
Good question. So in UI photos, right now we have everything displaying. And so what we want to do is we want to hide that tiny Shaw David keyframers over at the top there. So I'm going to do, UI. There's a UI layer photo there, but UI layer photo, and then UI, I think that's the heading. We're going to display none to that. Yep. All right, so basically the idea is, I don't know why the formatting's so weird here, but we could fix that. CodePen has a feature where you could automatically format your CSS all nice. So the idea is this big Shaw David keyframers should disappear when we're in the photo state. And the smaller one should appear. So let's go ahead and add that there. UI later, photos, UI heading. Okay, so now when you click, you should see one disappear and the other one appear. And so that's the setup we want. Also, we should probably fade out that out of order magazine text over at the bottom there.
There we go. We got a question earlier in the chat asking about what about SVG clip path and an inline image in the SVG. I would very much be hesitant to take that approach just with SVG performance in general. Trying to do something like that would likely not be very smooth.
Right. So one of the unfortunate things about SVG is that you can't exactly hardware accelerate SVG. Now I say you can't exactly because you could always take an HTML element and put the SVG as a background image and then animate or transform the heck out of that HTML element. But that's a bit of a hack. Otherwise, SVGs right now do not go to the compositor ever, which sucks.
Yeah, that's unfortunate.
All right, so I'm in the HTML right now, and I'm going to add that data flip key attribute. And so with the flipping library that I have, I'm just identifying similar elements right now. So this big Shaw David keyframers header, I'm just going to call that heading. And then we go to the smaller one at the bottom, data flip key equals heading. And then with flipping, all you need to know is when things are about to change and when things actually change. And so we could actually do that right here because in the JavaScript, because we know that things are going to change when we do that app.set attribute. So let's set up flipping over here. Const flipping equals new flipping, just like that. And then if you do flipping.read over here, let things change and do flipping.flip. That's all you need to do. So right now you're just reading when things happen, then the attribute's going to change and the layout changed, and then the flip is going to make sure that things smoothly transition from the previous state to the current state.
Now I am getting a bit of jumping.
Jumping in which way?
Like the text is getting squished.
All right, yeah, let's investigate that. All right, so with this one, okay, that looks normal. And with this one,
And real quick, if you are watching in the stream, you can see when I toggle the states really quick, sometimes the animations jump around. This is one reason I like to use transform wherever possible. So if I were going to have another few hours on this, I would go back and like the split cell animation, I'd probably change to just a transition, and then that would always transition smoothly regardless of the quickness of your state change.
yeah. So this whole squishing problem, what flipping does is, it changes the size. Here. Still trying to figure out how to deal with this whole squishing thing. And ideally, it wouldn't do that. But what's probably happening is actually, all right, let's do this. I'm going to go into UI heading in the CSS. Do you have something selected in the CSS? Because I see a lot of blue.
Oh, sorry.
No worries. All right, so in UI heading, the smaller one. Yeah, so over here I have UI heading font size as 1 rem. Instead of that, just to, give us this cool effect that we want, I'm going to get rid of that, get rid of that. It's still doing the squishy thing.
Yeah.
But actually, it's a little bit less noticeable, I think.
On the reverse state, it's a bit of a problem.
Right. So, how do I remedy this? Okay, I got an idea. So this UI heading is going to, in the HTML, it's going to have a span. So I'll go ahead and then I'll move the data flip key to that span. And so what I'm doing here is I'm making sure that the size of the overall heading does not affect the size of the actual thing we want to animate. Because if you think about it, this heading is going to have a whole lot of white space that when we're animating the text, we really don't care about that white space, if that makes sense.
You mean like the margins and the padding and such?
Yeah, exactly. And so I just have to make sure that in the UI heading, I have to make sure, where is it? All right, I have to make sure that the span inside is display inline block, because by default spans are display inline, and when you have things that are display inline, then I forget what exactly it is, but the browser tends to not regard its sizing because it doesn't matter, it's inline.
Right, and also transform and a lot of other attributes won't actually work on inline elements.
Right. All right, so now go ahead and click the body, and you're going to see that it's finally smooth.
Beautiful. And can we match the
It's
duration up?
Yeah, we can. So in flipping, you could let's see where it is. JavaScript. In new flipping, you could set the duration. And what's our duration?
Like 1.5. or
Okay.
1500. Yeah.
All right, so that's smooth. Unfortunately, the last heading is a little too big, so let's
Yeah.
cross our fingers and see what happens if we make it a little bit smaller. Do I heading? Do I heading? Oh, okay. So font size 1 rem. Let's see what happens. Aha! Here we
Hey.
go. So if you click on the body, now you're going to see that it's shrinking correctly. It
Yes.
doesn't look weird or anything. And so yeah, all you had to do was really just put a span inside of an H1. And that's going to open the doors to doing a whole lot of other, cool animation techniques. You could even do sliding layers and get a cool text effect where the text just sort of slides in. Um, yeah. So it looks really ugly right now, but I think we're almost done with all of our,
Right.
main animations.
There's a lot of love that this could receive in terms of just making things prettier and less goaty. But in terms of the actual animation, um, that's it's feeling pretty good.
Yeah. Yeah, the main things that I really want to capture in this dribble are the photo animations and the sliding layers technique that we did, both by just by itself in CSS and with using your SplittingImage plugin. Or it's not a plugin; it's a tiny library.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah. The hover state and like all that. I mean, it's nothing crazy. I think we can get by. Um, on on just these transitions right here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I dig it. Now, of course, there's a little bit more styling we have to do. Actually, it's not even or 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock your time. But do you want to just for fun do the last part that we said that we would save for last because it's probably the easiest?
That hover state.
Yeah, the hover state.
Yeah. Yeah, we can do
So
that.
I'll go ahead and I'll add the HTML for that real quick. And so let's take a look at what actually has to happen. So when you hover, it sort of fades to black, and at the same time you have this all collection type of thing
Yeah.
fade in. Cool. Um, you know what I'm gonna do? Just for fun, we're gonna use pseudo elements, or should I not?
No, pseudo elements are fine.
All right, cool.
For this kind of thing. Yeah.
Right. So basically, when we hover over the container, let's do the container. When we hover over the container, it's going to show a pseudo element, and that pseudo element is going to fade in and slide up. Or no, there's going to be two pseudo elements: the before and after. One's going to fade in, and that's going to be the overlay, and one's going to be the white box that says all collection or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. So let's do that. So I'm at the bottom of the CSS right now.
Yes.
So something that Benjamin DeCock, who works on the Stripe team, told me, which I found really interesting, is I used to do this. I used to have a display block and then a position absolute. I found out that this is actually redundant. You don't need display block when you have position absolute because position absolute automatically goes to display block, which, if you think about it, it makes sense. The only reason you would want to specify it here, like display, is if you use display grid or display flex. But with pseudo elements, that's never going to happen
Yeah.
because you're never going to have any children.
I've done before where I've changed it to like display inline to get some more specific alignment done with it. But yeah, in general, just doing position absolute will get you the sizing you want.
All right, so now we should see. Um,
Well, so what we have to do is set visibility visible on these pseudo
oh, yeah,
elements
yeah.
because our parent does not have
That's
it.
right. By the way, yeah, let's move all of this to get rid of that. Let's move all of this to the actual.
Can we just do it under UI photos?
Yeah,
Just
let's
make
do
it a
that.
little more specific.
Yep. Okay, that makes sense. I wonder why these aren't showing up on top of the photos though. They should be. Ah, there we go. Yep, now they are. Okay, cool. And we're avoiding the whole hover thing for now. Oh, you want to know something cool?
What's that?
Over here, since I have this duration 1.5 seconds, I'm going to change that just for now to 0 seconds. Why? Because, I want to see the thing I'm working with instead of waiting for the animation to finish.
Yes.
So that's one neat little trick about using SAS. Or you could do it with CSS variables. All right, so you're going to work on the after, and I'll work on the before. And I guess it says all collection or goats. Yeah, goats work.
Actually, I do here margin.
If that works.
Ah. See what I normally do instead of width 100% and height 100%, I'll do bottom 0, right 0. And
Yeah, so there's two kinds of people. both of them are valid.
Uh,
And I actually heard about that from it was either Jake Archibald or Paul Lewis. I think it was Paul Lewis on the Google team who did a talk about something animation related, and he was saying that you could either use top left with height or top left bottom right, and they both work, but it's just whatever people's tastes are.
so for me, the reason I do that is so that you can size the box in the way that you want. So, for example, right here, by just doing margin 1em, I'm able to get it spaced off all of the edges equally. And another trick is doing margin auto.
I think you just convinced me.
If you do margin auto with it has to be specifically sized. So like 30% height, 30% plus margin auto. Hey, there we go. There we are. Yeah, take off that there.
Oh,
you
nice
end
and
up
tiny.
you end up with some beautiful centering. This is this is a trick not many people know, but with that position absolute and setting all of the coordinates there, and then a specific width and height, you can just use margin auto to center that. No need for flexbox or anything like that. That'll work all the way back to IE 8, I believe. Maybe even earlier than that.
All right, so I set up the shift up animation for you. I think something we learned in our last video, or I learned at least, was that you don't necessarily need the 2 if you're just animating to the original values.
Correct.
I always used to do it explicitly out of fear. But so All right. Is that a bit too fast?
Yeah.
With 6 seconds.
And then what we can do here is opacity 0. And this is another case where I would use a transition instead of an animation. So let's say transition,
Good point. Good point.
transform. And the reasoning there is for a hover state, the user could interrupt at any moment, and you really don't want the jump that happens in terms of when you switch from one animation to another. That gets quite messy.
I just showed you the one thing that I find most irritating about transitions is that you have to do that.
Yeah, you
Or
can always say
you,
all.
yeah. But yeah.
And one thing I do is usually for opacity, I will set it to a linear easing or something close to that, because it feels much better in terms of the way that it fades in and out. Let's see. Okay, so
Right.
and before
Beth Purry.
shut up. And after opacity 1, transform.
And also the transform. We just do none. Okay, so let's.
Hold on. We need opacity 0 up here too. Okay. So that is an issue with the visibility hidden, is the pointer events are not triggering. So let me...
What if we do pointer events none to these? Does that work? It sort of works.
Well, I think maybe some of our states are overlapping.
Let's find out real quick. Yeah. So this UI layer photo, I'll go ahead and fix that over here. What's happening is right now we're in the photo state, and so technically the photo state or the photo layer is sitting on top of it right now. It's just that certain things are hidden, but it's still sitting on top. And so what we need to do is to that UI
it's already
layer.
Fixed.
How'd you fix it?
So again, with visibility, if you set visibility hidden on UI layer, I'm on line 167. If you set that to hidden and then set the children of it to visible, then presto, you have no pointer events or anything for the main container, but you do get those for the actual children.
That makes sense. So what I'd like to do is for pointer events, just do pointer events none and then pointer events auto for the children.
Yeah,
that works too.
Yes.
All right. Now what I'm seeing is when we're hovering, the transitions aren't exactly going.
Yes. Yeah. What's up with that? What'd you do, David?
Let's find out. All right. So after we have these transform 6 seconds using both opacity 6 seconds or
we don't need both
seconds
on there. That's not a valid transform property.
or
transition property. We also need the transition up here on the before.
Yeah, that's right.
And 0.6 is probably too much on that. And again, we could be using a variable for this, but
way ahead of you. I made it really long to type so it doesn't feel like we're saving any characters at all, but we still feel good.
Yeah,
and that's all that matters.
It at least makes it quicker to change. Okay.
Cool.
Here, let's
All right, now the funny thing is that let's say that you're hovering over a photo and you click it, it sort of does a weird actually, are the animations working for you?
No, because you changed the duration so that we
Oh,
could
that's right.
test.
I set to 0. Wow, shame on me. Well, I mean, it was good. It's just I forgot to change it back.
Yeah.
All right, so now the only issue I see is that we're seeing duplicate images.
Right, and that has to do with the visibility. Let me go back and tweak that again. Visibility hidden. Yep, there we go. Should be working correctly now.
Mm-hmm. Cool.
What is it that sometimes forces CodePen to do an entire refresh versus just changing it inline?
That would be a Chris Coyer question.
Yeah.
Well, that's cool. So we got all the elements we wanted. And then the rest is just decoration and making things look clean. So we have probably the simplest part, which is, hovering over each of these images. Then we have the sliding layers technique, right?
Yep.
And then we have the splitting image library. Now, have you released that yet?
It's technically out on GitHub and on npm, so you can include it and use it in your projects if you would like. I can drop a link to that. I have not put together the documentation and everything on it. It's pretty straightforward overall. Basically, just using data attributes. But it's mainly the CSS that starts getting complicated in terms of creating the effects you want. But I can drop a link to that in some of the show notes and stuff.
Yeah,
if you're interested in
good.
checking it out.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Cool.
All right. I think we're about ready to move into kind of a review state and overview state. Have we come up with a clever name for this segment of the show yet?
Framally.
Just a formality.
Yeah. Well, I was going for finale, but Framally.
Ah, okay.
But that sounds like a type of Italian dish.
Hey,
like a Framali.
I'd order it. Okay, so yeah, we're gonna go into kind of the overview now. So if you have any questions, now's a great time to ask them, and we'll get to them as we go through the overview. So, David, tell us a little bit about the state machine again.
All right, cool. So this is a really simple state machine where when we click the body, it toggles between two states, and that's photo and photos. And so you could sort of imagine like if you were to do document dot or in Elements, if you were to do toggle class, this is basically sort of the same thing. The reason I set up a state machine is because let's say we have more than two states. That's when it becomes really useful. And also controlling what triggers each state. So when you click the body, it goes to the next state. And so this is something we did in the last video too, where you develop per state first. You don't think about how it's going to transition from state to state and until the very end. And that's exactly what we did here. So
right, and you had done a lot of that setup ahead of time, which was great. That helped out a lot. And yeah, initially all of the transitions were not in place, obviously, and it would just toggle a jump cut between each state. And then by going into our CSS and adding all of these wonderful, beautifully written lines of code and infinite nesting, we were able to create these transitions. So on our app element, we have targeting the data state photo, the animations that trigger the gallery moving out and the single photo moving in. So the UI photos all move out, and the technique we were using there to make them appear to clip out was the sliding layers technique.
Mm-hmm.
And that is basically taking a layer plus a child and making them move in opposite directions so that it appears that the child is not moving, when in actuality it's moving the opposite direction as the parent at the same exact speed.
Right. Yeah.
And we ended up using a lot of visibility hidden and visibility visible, which is a great technique for hiding the parent but making a child visible. And in hiding the parent, you also get the advantage of not having pointer events on the parent, and you can choose specific children to show from that parent instead of showing everything like the browser does by default. I've heard that there are performance benefits actually by setting visibility hidden on like the body of your page, and then specifically calling out items to be visible instead of just everything visible by default.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't have any articles or references on that, so don't hold me to it.
Neither do I.
And then, so we use the sliding layers technique for the main gallery transition, and then the image in transition, we used SplittingImage, which creates all of those lovely nested spans with CSS variables that allow us to have these clones of the image that are then moved much in the same way that that the original did. And
So we had a question. Will this work in Edge? That's a good question.
in theory,
Yeah.
yes. Now, Edge does support CSS variables, but it does have some issues with it in animations sometimes. So that may be an issue. I'm not sure if the latest version of Edge has that or not.
Maybe.
But anyway, we'll leave that as an exercise to the user to test and see. There was also a question about the responsiveness of it. Yeah, that's a little bit outside of the scope here. Mainly just wanting to get those transitions down. In theory, you'd just be changing the layout a little bit to make it responsive, and that wouldn't be a problem.
Yeah.
Cool. Santiago McBrib, thank you for joining us. Yes, you missed most of it, but you can catch it again on the replay.
Or we could just start over right now.
Okay.
Just delete everything.
And there we go.
Great.
Awesome. And we used a little bit of flipping. Do you want to go over what we did there?
Yeah, sure. So just like the last episode, I added the same key, which is this data flip key equals heading, to both the small heading and the big heading. Now, we were seeing issues with it scaling weird, and that's because flipping was taking the entire element into account, white space and all. We don't exactly want that, so instead we moved this the text into its own span, and that span could sort of shrink and just be only concerned with the text, whereas the heading is concerned with the entire layout of where the text goes. And so by doing that, now we got our desired effect.
Yes. And
Now,
and that worked out
one small
beautifully.
one small issue we have to address, maybe not now but later, is that you might see, even though we're only using transforms and visibility and opacity, you might see a little bit of jank. And so that's the reason for this, is that these images are huge. So even though you see like these small goats confined to a small area, what the browser is actually doing is it's taking thousands of pixels and trying to squish it into like a 500 pixel space. And so when you're transforming thousands of pixels, it doesn't matter that you're on a compositor, that's going to be expensive. And so I guess the only solution for that at the time right now is to use smaller photos.
Uh,
And so I'm going to have to go back and do
Yeah,
that.
I went ahead and made that change.
Oh,
And
you did?
yeah, it does help quite a bit. I lowered them down to 800.
Okay.
This is a good instance where using responsive images and source set and all that would be would help with the scaling up and the scaling down.
Yeah.
Uh, Ads in the chat is asking about clip path. We actually didn't use clip path at all here. We're just using transforms for all of these animations. So in theory, there's no issue with Edge. It would just be something you'll have to try out. And he also asked if we could use GSAP instead to make it run on IE.
Yeah.
David?
So if you wanted to make it, if you really, really, really want to please all three of your IE users or whatever, then you would use an animation library such as GSAP in order to do so. Um, but actually, well, over here we're only using transforms. So there is a chance that this just works in IE, because IE does handle these transform animations, right? Or at least
Mm-hmm.
I'm thinking IE11, IE10.
Yeah, IE9 might struggle a little bit, but IE11 should be fine.
Right.
Now, our use of CSS variables and all of that will likely limit what IE will actually see, um,
That's true.
but that's something that you can play around with and see. And again, this is a good place where progressive enhancement comes into play. And that's one thing I did with splitting images CSS. If you can see in the stream now, I have an @support statement where it's just doing a simple CSS var calc. And so if the browser supports that, it actually displays all of the split cells. If the browser doesn't support that, then you won't get access to those.
Right.
Cool. All right. Any other techniques to cover or any other questions?
Well, I think we got all the techniques down.
Mm-hmm.
We got the simple hover animation, we got the splitting image, um, and we got these sliding layers.
Mm-hmm. I think a little bit of what seems to be jank is actually just rounding errors, and I
Right.
think that has to do with the way the sliding layers technique works. Of two different layers actually moving, and the rounding errors for both potentially causing it to look that way.
Yeah, that's true, and that's why I still wish clip path was, animated on the compositor.
Yeah.
Um, in fact, if we were to use clip path instead of the sliding layers technique, we might have seen jank, but a different kind of jank, where you wouldn't get those rounding errors. However, you would get maybe some little jittering.
Yeah, skipped frames and such.
Yeah.
Um, which one thing here that would potentially work is using splitting image with just one column, because if you look at the actual photo state transition, that is super smooth, and we're basically doing the same thing. If we were to adapt that to just use splitting image, it's possible that something in my code there would make that state a little bit better.
Right. Well, cool. So, do we want to wrap it up?
Yeah, I think that's a show.
All right. We're going to provide these links to you, by the way, to
Yes.
the CodePen. I'm gonna clean it up though before we do that.
Please do. All right, I got a little bit of music for us. You've been watching Keyframers, the animated collaborative coding live stream where we bring imaginative user interfaces to life.
Follow us on Twitter and Twitch at Keyframers to get notified when we'll be streaming next. We'll have this video available soon for those who didn't catch the full live stream, so keep an eye on the at Keyframers Twitter for the link.
And if you enjoyed this episode and would like to see more from David and I, you can head over to patreon.com/keyframers to support us so we can continue to release great content and expand Keyframers. That's Patreon, Patreon/keyframers.
Mm-hmm. And besides monetary donations, we're also accepting submissions for future episodes. Right now, all of the animations we're choosing are just random or things that we're like, oh, that looks pretty cool. But if you have an animation idea, tweet us at Keyframers with any animations that you'd like to see made. And we might do contests in the future to choose like which animation we should do. We'll see.
Yeah. And look out for Patreon rewards and things like that as we start to get more supporters. We'll be accommodating you guys quite a bit. And thanks again to Xena, if that's how you pronounce it, for creating this beautiful GIF on Dribbble. We'll have the link for that and everything else available for you guys to look over. So until next week, we'll see you next week.
Yeah, we'll see you next week. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.